We're going to go back. John, I'm going to throw this back to you now. President Trump has arrived.
Thank you, Marianne Rafferty. President Trump is entering the Knesset building. Heavy, hearty handshakes. There he's greeting Steve Witkoff. I believe that was Steve Witkoff, who has been so very involved, the president's personal envoy, in making this day happen. Benjamin Netanyahu now, a handshake and a smile between those two. There have been some tense exchanges between them. President Trump was not happy that the Israelis launched an attack in Qatar, which took out much of the Hamas leadership. And the Israelis defended that, said it was necessary, and perhaps it's part of what led us to this day, a day that the Israeli hostages finally are being released. President Trump will be speaking to the Israeli parliament. He's going to be signing one of the documents that attend to this day, but it's my understanding that this is not the peace deal that's being signed in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, for obvious reasons. He's in Israel, not in Egypt. But the president is going to be signing something. Perhaps our chief national security correspondent, Jennifer Griffin, knows more about what this is. Jennifer?
John, right now, what we are seeing, you're seeing President Trump. He is in the Israeli Knesset. He is signing what looks like a guest book. It's a guest book. I'm trying to read over his shoulder to see what he is writing, but you might have a better view from where you are right now. But clearly, he is being welcomed at the Knesset. With highest honors. He will be receiving the Medal of Honor, which is the highest civilian award. Looking on is the Prime Minister of Israel. President Trump, in his traditional Sharpie and very recognizable handwriting, is writing what looks like a long message to the Israeli people, to the Israeli government. He's finishing up now, but we've started to receive some really emotional images from the released hostages. One of the most searing moments was seeing two twin brothers who have been held in separate locations. President Trump now holding up, it says, "This is my best." I'll let you read it, John. You can probably see it better than I can on our monitor here. But President Trump sending a very heartfelt message to the Israeli people and to the region. He's very proud of this moment. He's said on board Air Force One that it is the proudest, maybe the best moment of his life. He is so happy to be here in Israel and to have achieved what many before him have not been able to achieve, a ceasefire in Gaza, an end to what he says the war in Gaza, and the release of 20 living Israeli hostages whose families did not believe they would see this day. We are still awaiting confirmation from the International Red Cross that they safely have the last 13 living hostages. The Red Cross is on the scene and they are in the Gaza Strip, and we're told they've made contact with the hostages and with Hamas, but we do not have confirmation that all of the hostages are safely in their hands. They often do medical checks as well as identity checks of the hostages. We've been seeing images coming out actually through Hamas phones of the hostages, the 13 calling their families in Re'im. Some of them are smiling. The families certainly are happy to see the faces of their children and loved ones, but it's still rather gut-wrenching that they are still using their Hamas captors' phones to call their family. You see President Trump right now walking through the Knesset, greeting people along the way. He is being escorted by Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu and his wife Sarah. An important relationship that really forged this deal. It was that moment in the White House when President Trump was sitting side by side with Benjamin Netanyahu, and he told him, he made him call the Emir of Qatar and apologize for that strike, that airstrike against Hamas that attempted to assassinate the Hamas negotiators in Doha, Qatar. That really was a turning point in this. Some say that it took that military pressure to bring Hamas to the table. Others said it made President Trump so angry that he put pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu, and that is when they realized there was a moment. We also heard from negotiators who were involved in the talks that that they believed there was a moment to make this deal when they realized that Hamas was starting to view the hostages less as an asset and more as a burden. When they got that message, probably through the Qatari interlocutors, that is when Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff began the final push to get this deal. And they got it done in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, just moments ago. It looks like what President Trump wrote is, "This is my best," still hard to read, "a great and beautiful day, a new beginning. This is my great honor." This is what he says. President Trump writes to the Israeli people, "This is my great honor, a great and beautiful day, a new beginning." Very profound words for a man who has become a peacemaker here in the Middle East. We can now confirm, John, that all 13 living hostages have been transferred to the International Red Cross in Gaza. They are now safely transferred, and they are in the hands of the Red Cross. They will be making their way now to the IDF and handed over to the IDF, and they will then be making their way within the next few minutes. They will be transferred, and then they will make their way, that brief ride, to the state of Israel, across the border, and to the Re'im base where their families are waiting for them. But we can confirm that all 20 living hostages have now been released from Hamas captivity. They have been handed over safely to the Red Cross. We're told that all 20 are walking on their own. That is good news. That suggests that they did not need wheelchairs or to be taken out in stretchers. President Trump will be making his way to the podium there in the Knesset. He will be addressing a government that has been divided until now. Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu's government has not been unified on this issue, on the issue of the hostages, on the issue of how to prosecute the war in the Gaza Strip. But today, a show of unity with the President of the United States standing, only the fourth president to ever do so, to address the Knesset on this momentous and happy occasion for the Israeli people, 20 living hostages coming home. Now, for the families of the 28 deceased hostages who remain in Gaza, still a bittersweet moment. They will not have closure until those 28 deceased hostages return home. And then, of course, the mourning begins, the collective mourning. They've been in a state of suspended mourning, if you will, for the last 2 years, unable as a nation to bury their dead, to mourn the losses, the 1,200 people who were killed that day 2 years ago. And then, of course, the Palestinian people. They are still digging out from the rubble. 90% of the Gaza Strip is rubble at this moment in time. There are hundreds of dead bodies of Palestinians being unearthed as we speak. 500,000 Palestinians returned to their homes, much of which were destroyed in the last 2 years of fighting. The Israelis blame Hamas. They say that they were hiding the hostages and other and militants in those civilian areas, in the tunnels which were dug underneath all of these residential areas, underneath hospitals. And so, but the destruction is like something we haven't seen since, since sort of World War II Dresden era photos or Hiroshima. It is really unbelievable. I have friends in Palestinian friends who sent me pictures of their homes before and the after is simply rubble. So right now we await the President of the United States. He will be making his way to the front of the Knesset. He will be speaking. We were told that before he spoke, he was going to speak to some of the families of the hostages. I imagine if past his prologue, the president may be on the phone right now with some of those hostages, some of those families. This is a very, very proud moment for him. He has expressed as much. He says that this is really his greatest achievement, and it is certainly a high point in his presidency. He will be traveling on to Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, to meet with those leaders of 20 countries, including the Palestinian president, Mahmoud Abbas, later today for a signing ceremony, an official signing ceremony for the end to the Gaza war. The Israelis will not be traveling to Egypt for that ceremony. They already had a signing ceremony with Hamas and with the interlocutors, Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, last Wednesday. That's what started the time clock for the Israeli Defense Forces to pull back to an agreed-upon line. They still control about 53% of the Gaza Strip, but they pulled back to that line. And then within 72 hours of that ceasefire taking hold and the IDF pulling back, that is when we were told that the hostages would be released and 2,000 Palestinian prisoners released and on their way to the Gaza Strip. That was the timetable, and that timetable they've held to that today on Monday. So back to you, John.
All right, Jennifer Griffin doing an excellent job reporting from Tel Aviv. So
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.